Now, you're probably in one of two groups. The first group says, I love Trump. Trump's the greatest. Trump is the greatest president. Okay, fine, you're over here. The other group says, you hate Trump. You despise Trump. He's the worst form of flesh. Okay, fine. Because it's either or. It's either or in our society. But the question from a legal point of view is, if you're Alvin Bragg, the district attorney for New York, for Manhattan, would you indict Trump? No, not can you, not is it likely, but would you? That's the issue. And I invite, and I've talked to fellow lawyer friends of mine and judges and people, you've got to be out of your mind to do this. If you're lucky, maybe you can get a conviction on a misdemeanor. Because the type of case that we're talking about, this paying Michael Cohen and reimbursing him and basically reimbursing him for something which is not against the law. And the best part is, this is a state crime? You're charging somebody with a state crime involving what? Some federal impropriety? When the feds don't even want this? Think about this. The feds don't want this case. It's not a matter of, are you going to indict him? Sure, you could indict him. The great, the inimitable, the ineffable, the immane Saul Walker, greatest jurist I've ever known, made the comment, and out of all that he's said through his brilliant career, that what he's known for the most is an off-the-cuff statement that even any good prosecutor or words of that effect could indict a ham sandwich. That's him. To indict means nothing. You have to have probable cause. You go to a grand jury. And these people, God bless them, grand jury duty, they're sitting there. You bring the case in. You cherry pick. You give them all the best stuff. And he did this, and he did this. And you know what? You might be the grand jury that indicts the President of the United States. Now, they won't say that per se, but it's known. And you have to have probable cause to return an indictment, to return a true bill. And you know what the definition of probable cause is? Best one I ever heard? He probably did it. And that's easy. Getting an indictment means nothing. Now you're going to take it to trial. You want to take it to trial? Oh, this is great. So let's assume that you've got a case and you've got pitfall after pitfall, because you're going to have to show intentional actions on the part of President Donald Trump. You're going to have to show that, again, most probably for a misdemeanor, because there's still a lot of discussion now whether they would even have at its best the requisite prima facie evidence to charge a felony version of something which, for all practical purposes, does not have a New York State counterpart. But let's assume, arguendo, for the sake of argument, that it does. By the way, arguendo, not innuendo. That's an Italian suppository. You remember that old joke. But you're going to charge him, and then you're going to go to trial? And who's your witness going to be? Michael Cohen? Oh, dear God. This guy, you're going to put him on the stand about what he did? And it's called impeaching the witness, not impeachment that you think of in terms of impeaching a president, but to affect and attack the credibility. Oh, my God. And most probably, if a jury were to say there's no evidence that President Donald Trump knew, deliberately intended to defraud under whatever particular theory that would apply to a New York law regarding a federal campaign. I mean, the great Andrew McCarthy asked the question. You're asking, in essence, he said, you're asking a state trial court, the trial court nisi prius, as we say, you're asking a state trial court to determine whether he violated another law, a federal law? Can a state and have that as the basis for a prosecution in New York? What if he violated a French law? I mean, just getting past a motion to dismiss with all that stuff. Because just because you return an indictment, so what? Now, the political argument is that they're doing this because he just wants to get that scalp on the wall. He just wants to be able to say, I did it, I got that. I was the one who, I got Trump. Look at me, Alvin Bragg, Cy Vance, my predecessor. Nobody else could do it. I'm the first one. And by the way, there are other people, champing at the bit, ready to go after him as well. But in any event, and they're not going after January 6th. They're not getting him for stop the steal or these 2020 vote deniers or whatever that business is. Oh, no. This Stormy Daniels, a case in which a man is presumed to have secured the silence, which is not against the law, through an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which is not against the law and done all the time. To what? To defraud the federal government? No. It's about him. It's about one could argue, it's an individual trying to keep somebody quiet. All right. Don't forget there was that McDougal counterpart, but there was another party that paid for her silence. All right. It's done all the time. So you're going to go to court and that jury's going to sit there and say, you're kidding me. I got to go through Cohen? You're going to bring what? Stormy Daniels? Bring her in there? And after, what? How many days of testimony from these two? And let's assume for the sake of argument, let's assume somebody says, is this the way you treat a former president of my president? The president of the United States? Because it's weird what happens. People forget this was, this is Donald Trump. This is President Donald Trump. This was the president of the United States. And this is what you do? Cohen and Dusty Saddles or whatever her name is? Oh, no. Now, this is not at all the last of any kind of criminal exposure, or civil for that matter, that President Trump has to look at. But I want you to understand something, because you keep hearing all the time, it's very likely that they're going to indict. It's not about indicting. A prosecutor says, can I win this case? What does this do for me? And if I take a misdemeanor, which very likely could be just a misdemeanor, to court and I lose, it's going to bolster, it's going to create the apotheosis of President Donald Trump even higher and greater than it is right now. Now, these are the practical implications of this. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of this? And a prosecutor always has to remember, prosecutor is politically elected. It's redundant, but he's there at the behest and at the pleasure of the citizenry. He always has to do. You always want to be the Thomas Dewey, the Rudy Giuliani. You want to be the hard scrabble prosecutor. By God. Remember Durham? Where'd he go? Whatever happened to him? Remember the Mueller? Where was Bob Mueller? Whatever happened with it? They just kind of go away. They kind of go away. You don't want to be one of those people that just kind of go away. You want to be the one that people remember, and that's the guy. Rudy Giuliani was the Tom Dewey of his generation. Rudy Giuliani was, let's face it, he was it. He was it. But that's a different story. We'll talk about him later on. So yeah, you go ahead and I can guarantee you can, and I know this sounds like an over-exaggeration, but for you not to be able to secure probable cause for a misdemeanor, of something. This is called target prosecution, where you go after somebody, you say, I'm going to find something. I'm not suggesting Mr. Bragg did this, but many people in the past have done this. Are you sure about this? Because with something like this, you're going to want to win. And you're going to have to ask yourself and everybody else, was it worth my time? What did I gain from this? If it was a January 6th move, of course, that would be a federal case. That would certainly be of a different heft, so to speak. Something that involved him in January 6th specifically was seditious conspiracy, something along those lines, which I'll talk about later on, which that is a very, very dangerous charge. And all of these matters, that might be something that, for whatever is worth, is worth teeing it up. But this, are you kidding me? These are the considerations that every prosecutor has to think. And it's not about whether you like Trump, whether you don't like him. That's not it. A prosecutor is after justice, believe it or not. That's what he swears to uphold, justice, not just convictions. And you also have to ask yourself the question, in the long run, is society better for this? Is society better off? With all of the cases and all of the efforts and all of the crime and all of the suffering that mankind has to contend with, do you mean to tell me this is your best means of applying limited time? Those are the considerations you have to think of. All right? Now, what do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you agree or don't you? Either way, comment as you see fit.